Next up, we're going to learn about opacity mask. So this is going to be different than a clipping mask because an opacity mask is going to allow you to mask something and alter the transparency of that artwork. We're going to find this in the transparency panel, a little bit different. Excuse me. So with our selection tool, we're going to click to select this beach image that was one of the mini copies we made previously. And we're going to drag it into position over here, like this, sort of. So if you notice, this artboard says from mountains to beach. Doesn't make much sense only showing the mountains. So we're going to drag this and put it somewhere over here for now. All right, we're now going to make a shape, a rectangle, for masking purposes. So we're going to get our rectangle tool, and we're going to drag to create a rectangle that covers most of the beach image. So I'm just going to drag one out like this. And you can see there's lots of it over here, but I'm already outside of the artboard. The artboard line is right here. So I have a pretty big mask. And just to make it easier to work with this, we're going to press the letter D on our keyboard. That's going to switch our defaults down here in the tools to be white fill, black stroke, so that we can see this and work with it a little bit better. We can see our rounding and our center anchor point. With our selection tool, we're going to click on the beach image, shift click rather, to select it as well. So now we have the white shape that's going to be the mask and the beach image, and both are selected. We're going to jump to we're in our properties panel, but we're actually going to click on the word opacity right here. And that's going to open a transparency panel. There's a button in here that says Make Mask. You can see our two pieces are selected, and we're going to click on that. Now what we see is the full image is over here on the left, and the mask is over here on the right, and they're linked. So moving one moves the other. That button now turns into Release, which is the opposite of Make, so your only option is to let go of it if you want to. So what we now want to do is edit this opacity mask. Instead of working with this floating window we're going to open that popped up from clicking the word opacity, we're actually going to open an entirely new window. So we're going to do Window, Transparency, and that's going to give us a panel, and we're going to have a few more, it's going to be easier to see things than if we were working in this version. All right, in this transparency panel, we are going to, so right now you can see that the image itself has a blue bounding box around it, meaning it is selected. We're going to hold down Shift and we're going to click on the thumbnail, and that is going to disable the mask temporarily, so we don't even see it. And if we shift click on that again, we see the effect of the mask. Right now all it's doing is chopping off this much of the picture. It's not a big deal, but by shift clicking on the mask, we can see it or not see it. All right, now we want to select the mask. So we want to click once over here so that the blue outline is around the mask, and it is the mask that we are targeting. Another thing that when we're working on the mask that we can confirm that we're working on the mask is we can look up here and it says opacity mask, so it's a little bit different. All right, with the mask selected on our artboard and right here, we're going to go into our properties panel and we're going to go into the fill, and we're going to choose this fill that is white comma black. It's a gradient. We're going to click on that option as our fill. So we now can see that there is white. If we look up here at our mask, we went from white to black gradually over time. So we can see it and then not see it. The problem right now is that we can fully see our beach over here, and then it gradually goes to showing the mountains, and we'd obviously want to see mountains on this side and gradually go to seeing all beach. All right, let's just ensure over in our toolbar at the bottom that the fill is indeed the thing that's on top, because we're going to target the fill, not the stroke. And we're going to go back to our gradient tool. So click on your gradient tool in the toolbar over here. Got our gradient tool selected, and we're going to move our pointer to the right side, and we're going to drag from left to right. So we're going to go from white to black. Okay, so white shows what's underneath, black hides. So now I have my beach showing on the right and my mountains showing on the left. And you can do this from beyond, or you can stretch it beyond the image a little bit too if you want to get a little bit more of a blend. All right, I'm gonna do one more time. Stop a little closer to that. Okay, that looks better actually. Extending beyond doesn't look quite as good. All right, notice how the mask thumbnail up here in the transparency panel now shows that gradient that we built from white to black going opposite direction. Next, we're going to move the image, but not our mask. So as long as our image is selected in this panel, we'll be able to do that. So click on the image thumbnail itself, not the mask. Make sure that that is actively blue. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to unlink these. We don't want them to move in tandem. So we're going to click on the unlink button. And then with our selection tool, we're going to move this beach image a little to the left to start showing a little bit more of it in here. Okay, so I'm still moving it, moving it, moving it. Once you are happy with how this looks, you should click the link to relink the two so that one doesn't move independently from the other anymore. All right, once they're linked, again, we're going to move them over a little bit together so that our beach image is fully on this side of the, or inside the artboard. And I'm going to go back to my layers panel. Close that. So that's our image. We also want to shift click on the mountain range image. So I'm going to hold down shift and click here. And I lost them all. Let me undo that. The mountain range is down here. Wanted to make sure I got that image and the image up here of the beach. And we're just going to send them to the back. You can see how they're kind of over this picture right here, and that doesn't look great. So object, arrange, send to the back. Whoops. Well, that didn't quite work. Undo. Which one do I not want? I just want this one. You try sending this one to the back and see if that works. Object, arrange, send to the back. Nope, not quite that far anyway. How about if we just send it back in baby steps? Object, arrange, send backwards. So the shortcut is Command and then right bracket, I would call that. Send backwards. I can see over my layers panel as it's going down, 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 down. There we go. That's much better. I just want to be able to see this type clearly. All right. The last part of this whole chapter is working with image links. So we have a variety of images that we brought in, we've embedded, we've linked, and we can go backward, we can unembed images, and we can link to images that we had already embedded. To see this panel, we're going to go Window and then Links. And here, well, I'll leave it over here on the other side. Here is our panel. So we can see that we have lots of different images. Some have names, some don't, and some have this icon. We're going to select the icon image, which is this one up top, icon.jpg. and we're going to twirl open this information triangle down here. So it tells us it's icon JPEG, it's an embedded file, this is the size, this is the resolution. We've shrunk this down to 16% of its original size, which is why the resolution is so high. If we're looking at the links panel, we're going to see all the things that we've done. And if it's been embedded, we see this icon to the right. And at the bottom, there is this image. It says go to links. And if we click on that, it's going to take us to it on the artboard so that we can find what we are looking at. If we don't know where it is, it's going to actually show us that. So click away to deselect. That just shows you how you can find it here. Click that button and it will identify it for you on the artboard. How about embedding and unembedding? So if you chose not to link an image when you placed it, it's going to be embedded and the data is stored in the Illustrator document. If you choose to embed a file later after you placed it, Illustrator is going to allow you to do that as well. So let's just fit everything in our window right now. And on the right lower artboard, we are going to click to select the hills image. Let's see if that actually did that. Nope, did not. So the hills image was embedded when we originally placed it, and that did select it over here in our links, hills.jpg. It's this image in our clip group. So it's embedded, but what if you need to edit it in Photoshop? So we can unembed it as well. In our properties panel, there is a button to unembed, and we're going to click that to unembed it. A dialog thing is going to appear, and it's going to say, okay, if we're going to pull it out and unembed it, where should we put it? Where should this go? We're going to go to the images folder, and then we're just going to make sure that it's saving whatever it is as a PSD file. So we want to make sure it says PSD, and then we're going to say save. Now, if we were to edit the hills file in Photoshop, the image would update in Illustrator now that it's linked once it writes this. Okay, so see how it changed and the icon is gone over here. You can also very easily replace either linked or embedded images with something else. So if this were maybe a mock-up for a magazine cover and all your text and logos stayed in one spot, but you weren't sure what cover photo you wanted, you can replace that main image with something else to see a new layout really quickly. On our artboard, Mountains 2 image is the one on the left. Let's click that. I'm going to move this over here out of the way. That was the very first image that we placed. So select that on the artboard. And then in our links panel, we're going to click down below here where it says relink. I'll twirl that shut. We don't actually need that, but there is a link icon at the bottom that allows us to relink. So when we click on that, it's going to ask us what we want to relink to. So in our images folder, we're going to say, let's try Mountains 1 instead. We want to make sure that the link option is selected down here. And we're going to say place. And that's going to swap out that image and update our graphic. So it's very easy to do that. Like I said, if this were the cover or if this is your mock-up and you want to try different pictures, you can just relink to different documents and they're going to follow the sizing and the scaling and whatever masking you had applied to the original. So you can click to deselect, and this is the end of the chapter and the end of all of the lessons in the Illustrator book. So congratulations, you've learned it all. And we can close that document.